Amy moved to Fort Collins, Colorado. Previously, as Arizona Game and Fish's Information and Education Program Manager, she served almost a decade as the media liaison and wildlife consultant in the greater Phoenix area. Her passion inspires an appreciation and understanding of native wildlife and habitats through place-based knowledge and experience. Amy holds a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Studies from the University of North Carolina at Asheville. When Amy is not working to connect people with the natural world around them, you can find her petting dogs and running the local mountain trails in and around Fort Collins. Her talk this afternoon is titled Living in a Two-Lit World, the Effect of Light Pollution on Our Wildlife and What You Can Do About It. Please join me in welcoming Ranger Amy Burnett.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
This gets a little loose here, so just, that's it, okay?
Thank you. Oh my goodness, I haven't even said anything and all this applause. I don't know if I can live up to that. How are you all? Okay, very good. It's so great to be back here in Fountain Hills. I am honored. Thank you so much for inviting me. I started working here when I was 15. Okay, so I'm a little old now. Can you believe I started working at, I moved to Fountain Hills, started working at McDowell Mountain Regional Park in 2010. That's a long time ago. How many of you went to one of my presentations at McDowell Park? Can I just see it? Oh my gosh, I love this. It's so fun. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed I just saw someone here that was on one of my, used to go on one of these fitness hikes, and I thought he might be in this picture, but he's not, but he's here today. I really, really enjoyed my time working as Ranger Amy at McDowell. Had a lot of adventures, met a lot of amazing people, and had a lot of great experiences, people experiences, nature experiences, and the one thing that always really just was the cherry on top was the night sky. And I got paid to take people on night hikes. I'm glad no one told my boss. I would have done it for free. I want to say something that's kind of personal. Many of you don't know that when I came to Fountain Hills, I was starting a new life, and I had just gotten divorced. It was a really, really tough time in my life, and it's something I didn't really share. It was pretty private, obviously, and it was something that I didn't really know how to get through on my own. And I don't think that there was anything that I could have done, any self-help book that I could have read that would have done what the night sky did to me. When I would go out after or before a night hike with people, I would just sort of take a deep breath and look at the stars, and it was the one time of day, I think, that I wasn't in my head, and that I could really just think. Luckily, I didn't have the smartphone that we have now. Can you imagine if we had grown up with those? Many of us. Here I am looking out over you. Some of you did grow up with smartphones. Mine was a flip phone. But someone asked me last night, they said, Ranger Amy, how do you know so much about wildlife? And I was like, well, I just went out and explored the night sky and the dark. And just had a fascination with the animals, and I listened and I watched and I observed. And I think if I had had a smartphone back then, I would have done a lot of scrolling and Googling and a lot less watching and listening. And if I had a question, I would just watch. And I learned so much from being in nature and a lot at McDowell Mountain Regional Park. So with that, I'm just really excited that the Dark Skies Discovery Center is here. And why did you wait until after I left? It's amazing. We'll talk, we're going to be talking, people are going to be talking about this after I get off the stage here, and I'm so excited to hear what they have to say about it. Oh, I can talk about it too. Thanks, Ted.
Great.
Okay. One thing that happened when I was at McDowell is that people would reach out to me with let me know that there was an injured owl that needed to be rescued. And we're not talking one or two. I've probably rescued hundreds of owls. I wish I had a number of how many owls I took in. They had injuries from mostly trauma injuries, and many of them were hit by cars. And I thought, how do owls get hit by cars? They have such amazing eyes. Like, how does this even happen? You know, they're smart. They're wise old owls. But as I learned more about owls, I found that there are some things that were happening that they couldn't have adapted to. You know, light pollution is something that's happened, that's really only been ubiquitous in the past, you know, 1, maybe 200 years, but probably just 100 years. And and owls love sitting on perches and then swooping down onto their prey. And roadsides are a great place for owls to watch for a rodent scurrying across the road. They go from a place of vegetation to no vegetation, and they're like, hey, this is great pickings. But unfortunately, when that happens, they are a lot of times blinded by headlights, and then it can take take anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds for their eyes to recover, and that's called functional blindness. Not only can it cause temporary blindness, but it can even cause permanent blindness in owls. And so my heart went out to these owls, and I did a lot of rescues. And light pollution of all kinds is so important to me because we love our wildlife. And it's just one of these things that if we learn more about light pollution, hopefully we can cut down on it and help our wildlife not have to go through those and get poor little bandage on the little wing that guy had. Owls have the most amazing eyes. They have such big eyes. They're oversized, and that's why they look so smart. But the one thing about owls is that they have more rods than cones. They have an enormous amount of rods, and those rods bring in light, take in a whole bunch of light, but they don't see color as well as we do. We have more cones. We don't see that great in the dark, but owls are adapted to seeing in the dark. So a lot of times they get disoriented, and they're just not adapted for the light pollution of our modern world. So these are some of the impacts that light pollution has on wildlife. Owls are just one of the many different species that are affected by light pollution. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We are pretty lucky here in Arizona, aren't we? We have a lot more opportunities for dark skies. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not going to correct myself, I'm going to just say we. I'm not here anymore, but I still kind of say we a lot. We're lucky in Arizona. But Colorado has some beautiful skies too. Do you know that 80% of people live with light pollution? 80%. And most people cannot see the Milky Way. So only about a third of people can see the Milky Way where they live. So here in Fountain Hills, you definitely are very lucky. You don't have this. The reason I put this in there is, how many of us have been to Vegas? Yes. Did you know that this is the light pollution that you can see from Death Valley, from Vegas, 90 miles away? So, you know, it's just amazing to think about. So what kind of animals are affected by light pollution? What do you think? How about turtles? How about migratory birds? How about insects? Amphibians, bats, so mammals, and fish. So basically, everybody. Everybody is affected by light pollution. Not just us, right? This poor little guy is following those human-made lights, and this little fella is going towards a road. And thank goodness people are doing something about light pollution in places where sea turtles live. So if you think about, I love this little guys. Look at how these lights to these small sea turtles look like the moon. And so they're programmed to go toward the water. to go toward the light reflecting from the moon off the water, and that's instinct. And so Florida had a big problem. And thank goodness an organization called the Sea Turtle Conservancy said, you know, we need to do something about it. And they started educating people and throwing money, that's always helpful, at grants and retrofitting. So take a look at this, who knows when this building was built, but they started explaining to people, let's get some red lights, and let's get some lights that shine down. And so they instructed people, they educated people about turtle-friendly lighting. And incidentally, this is a lot of the same things that you'll hear today from people at booths around the festival about how to make your house more wildlife-friendly. It's the same thing with turtles. So here's one of the buildings before the retrofit, and then after. And you can see that it's much, much safer for sea turtles. And the great thing about sea turtles is that they saw up to 100% drop in disorientation rates. And when I say disorientation rates, not only the sea turtle hatchlings, but the adult sea turtles were actually, in some cases, going up on the sand to lay their eggs and turning around, so you could see their tracks in the sand making a complete circle without laying eggs and going back in. And as sad as that sounds, it's even more horrible when you think about the energy that it took that sea turtle to go up on land, to bring itself up on its flippers. It's not really great on land. It takes so much energy. And so going back out into the ocean and trying to find a new place to lay its eggs, and that sea turtle might not successfully lay its eggs in a different place. So it's not like they can just say, oh, I'll just go to the next beach and try there. So sea turtles are just one of the animals, and owls, that suffer from this disrupted hunting. Take a look at these mice here. Sometimes they have an advantage, but with light pollution, predators have a disadvantage. And what they do is they will be less active. Some of you are going, ew, did I hear ew? I love snakes. You know that. So snakes are less active in brightly lit areas. So what does that mean for snakes and other animals that are trying to hunt at night in areas where there is a lot of light pollution? Well, they may not travel very far, and so they don't have as many opportunities to hunt. And it's no wonder that sometimes they just sort of sit somewhere. Some of you are going, yeah, I know I had a rattlesnake and it wouldn't move, right? And so sometimes they just move and wait for an animal to hop on by. Okay, who are you going to root for? Here's a little kangaroo rat. Don't look, don't look. Yay! Oh my gosh. As fun as that it is to see, you can imagine that it takes a lot for a snake to sit there for a long time waiting for that rat to come along, and then that rat's like, whoa! In midair, it's able to sort of get away from that snake. So that time, that snake was not, that snake did not eat it that night. Oh, it's gonna play it again. And I got asked the question the other day, well, what happens on moonlit nights when it's a full moon? Isn't that the same thing as light pollution? Well, what they found is you're actually right. Animals don't move around as much on a full moon. So if you really want to get the desert experience and you want to see all the animals come out, don't go on full moon night. You'll get a really great experience of not having to use your headlamp. But you're not going to see as much in the way of animal movement, because those animals are going to be a little skittish because everybody is trying to hide from the predators. This is a little cute little kangaroo rat that I found. And he was just like, you don't see me. So they're avoiding that artificially lit area. This was a little pocket mouse and a wind scorpion. And both of them were attracted to my light. So artificial light can actually attract some animals, but obviously I'm going to play this one more time because it's so cool. These two animals are very confused. They scared each other. And I was just laughing. So one thing that artificial light can do is it can cause loss of habitat. And when you think of loss of habitat, you think cutting down trees, areas that are developed. But actually, light pollution is causing a loss of habitat because they're avoiding those areas. So you have animals that don't have as many suitable places to live because they're avoiding that light. I got the opportunity to go netting bats with game and fish right here at Tonto National Forest near Needle Rock, and that was really great. You can see how obvious that net is during the day. And then at night, it just is, in certain light and certain angles, that net is there in that bigger picture, and you just can't see it. So it's amazing how much a lot of the animals, including bats, rely on darkness. So darkness actually, when I say loss of habitat, it's actually creating a virtual fence. So like in this hypothetical beam of artificial light from a street lamp, you can see that the bats on one side are not fraternizing with the bats on the other side. And what does this mean? It means less area for food, less opportunities for meeting other bats, less gene pool diversity, because you're stuck in one area. So a lot of things that people are just starting to realize are effects of light pollution that we had no idea before. This is my mentor, Randy Babb, and he's pointing out a California leaf-nosed bat. And do you see what he's doing? He's pointing out underneath the armpit. That's where the nipples are of the bat. So most bat species have 2 nipples, so one under each armpit, and they only have 1 to 2 young per year. So think about that. What does that mean? If you don't breed 1 year, that's not a very great birth rate, 1 to 2 pups a year. And it's really easy for bats to lose a lot of population. This is here in Phoenix, the flood control tunnel. You can find this by Googling it really easily, and people love to go and watch the bats. And this is one area where where the bats have adapted to urban life, but you notice that there aren't a lot of street lights around, so they've kind of kept it dim. But too much light can actually keep some bats from emerging. It disrupts their circadian rhythm. They can actually not come out, not emerge on a night. If there's too much light around, they won't even come out. And if you're not coming out, you're not eating, you're not breeding. There's so many ramifications for too much light when it comes to the sensitive species that we've been talking about. When you aren't moving around a lot in these 2 lit areas, you're going to lose weight. So this barn owl came in and it was just underweight. It just wasn't able to catch enough food. And part of this, we don't know if in this case it was light pollution, but we're starting to see a lot of nocturnal raptors that are underweight because of not getting enough opportunity to catch food in dark areas. Migration is one of the things that you've probably heard about a lot of migratory birds suffering when it comes to migration. So some of you already know that birds have a hard time with skyscraper lights. What you might not know is how many birds are killed every year in the US by building collisions. So when they pass through these cities and they get disoriented, we're losing a lot of our birds. And this was a hard picture for me to put in my in my presentation because this was an actual photo taken. 395 migratory birds died in one night after hitting one office tower in Galveston, Texas on one day. Since then, Texas has been one of the in the forefront of the Audubon Lights Out program. And you can see the difference between having the lights on, lights out, and they are having people turn off businesses and residential lights during peak migration times. So Lights Out Texas, and they've been really successful in working with businesses. But you are just as important as the business as far as turning off your lights, because there are so many residential homes that where birds are hitting windows that you can make a difference by turning out lights during those times, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. on peak migration days or nights. Did you know that 80% of all birds migrate at night? We have no idea that they're over our heads during migration season. They're not making a lot of noise, and they're navigating by the stars. So here's another thing that's confusing them. If skyscrapers are sending signals and they're thinking, is that a light? Is that a star? They wander off course. They often fly in circles. They get caught in those beams when the buildings that shoot light straight up. They can circle in those for hours, which for you and I might not be a big deal if we circle around for hours, but we eventually have to fuel up, and these birds can't fuel up. And so they're colliding with glass because they're weak sometimes, they're disoriented, they're confused. And most of it happens while they're on the move in migration. Why aren't we seeing them? So they're being quiet. Most of them are flying between midnight and 6, and they're flying at high altitudes. And about 1 billion birds every year are killed during migration from disorientation. Okay, here's my nerdy slides. Who are my nerds in the group? Okay. Did you know that birds fly at different altitudes depending on where they are in the country? Birds are flying closer to the ground in the east and flying higher, sometimes thousands of feet high in the west. So any of you who go back east during part of the year, it would be really a good thing to bring up and get involved in your Lights Out program back east, because that's where they are hitting a lot of skyscrapers, even more than in the west. So what can you do? Get involved in your local International Dark Sky Association. There's some folks here from Dark Sky International out in the lobby, which is really, really awesome. Here are the international dark areas in the country. And look at that. We have one of them right here. So pretty lucky. And I'm excited about some stargazing hopefully tonight if we don't get clouds. So again, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. would be the essential time to turn off your lights during migration periods. And you might say, well, how do I know when's the critical period, Ranger Amy? How do we know when they're migrating? You can't just turn on the TV. Well, actually, you can go to your computer and you can get the migration forecast. How cool is that? So March 29th, this is what I just pulled off the computer, and here we are. Tonight we're expecting a low to medium, oh, it moved. Sorry, some of you are going, it should have been like right there. All right, we're here. Sorry about the circle being in the wrong place. So we are seeing a low to medium amount of migration happening tonight overhead. So keep an eye out. They'll be flying pretty high. So what does the sky, this map, the birdcast map, look like on a busy night? And this is what it looks like. So have you found your hometown yet? Yeah? It's amazing to, so yeah, if you just remember Birdcast, and you can go and bookmark that and find out, how many birds are flying overhead at night. So in this, so tonight we are expecting 51 million birds are flying overhead, migrating, 51 million. And in peak season, 341 million birds are flying overhead. So back to what you can do. Talk to your businesses about turning off or dimming lobby or atrium lights. Your own lighting, drawing blinds so that you're not, the light's not escaping from your windows. And then here are some tips for having lights that shine down. Now, this slide you all know because you live in Fountain Hills, or a lot of you do, and you know that if you have lights that shine up, your neighbors are going to give you a hard time, right? Well, this is why. So we want to down shield and dim these lights. Use warmer color lights instead of the really bright LEDs. Use warmer amber colors. And try to get lights try to shield those lights down. Some other animals that are disrupted by artificial light are your pollinators. So we're all thinking, oh, these are kind of annoying moths, but who's eating these moths? And when we're killing all of the moths in the lights just on our porches, that adds up. And here's a sphinx moth, one of my favorites. There's a caterpillar, a sphinx moth caterpillar, and this sphinx moth is pollinating a cactus flower there, looks like. And so when you have all these, when light pollution affects our pollinators, then it has a trickle-down effect. Here's something I just threw in, and it's completely random because I'm ADD, but I just love it. But it was just fascinating to me that the texture of leaves is changing in areas with heavy light pollution. So what does that mean? It means that this caterpillar is having a harder time eating these tough leaves. And the caterpillar has a harder time eating the leaves. It's probably not going to may not morph into that pollinator moth. Those are the hummingbird moths, by the way, the big moths that you see. You'll see in a couple of months here. So this is a hashtag humble brag. I went to Japan this past year, and you talk about disruptive circadian rhythms. This is the city that, talk about, you think New York is a city that doesn't sleep. This was like 2 in the morning. And there's lights on all the time, and people are out, and people are just, there's lights and neon, it's just a lot. So we're not only are animals affected by the circadian rhythms of having their circadian rhythms disrupted by lights, but of course we are too. If you think about when you don't get enough sleep, how many of you get not so nice when you don't get enough sleep? I'm perfect, right? I just got pointed at. So it's really important to get a good night's sleep. When you don't get enough sleep, you know, I have one. I'm going to save that for another slide, but hold that thought. So fish actually get irritable when they have a lot of light and they're not getting the right sleep. And so what's happened to so they're actually studying Atlantic salmon, and they're finding out the juvenile Atlantic salmon are migrating at different times if there's a lot of ambient light. And you wouldn't think that they're shifting their pattern of when they start migrating in the day, and that timing is actually making them more of a target for a fish called a sculpin, and it's increased their predation by this fish called a sculpin by 40%. So if you like eating salmon, don't like light pollution. This was a really freaky, scary thing to find out. This was a lab study they did that they found out that light pollution affects fish into the next generation. So these zebrafish were exposed to light pollution, and then they became really anxious, and then the next generation was anxious as well. And they had the control group, and that didn't happen to them. So this is like, so light pollution is affecting us on like a gene level, down to your DNA. How many of you love the toads that come out in the spring? No? Some of you have called me up and said, what is this? It's in my backyard. How many of you have heard this in the summertime? Yeah. It's very loud, the red-spotted toad. And then you hear, these guys are really loud. This is the poisonous Sonoran Desert toad. And they can be pretty darn loud as well. But when there are a lot of lights in an area right next to the lake, pond, water feature where they've decided to hang out and call for a mate, they don't know what time to start calling. They might just call all night or not at all, and the mating calls are really what get everything going, if you know what I mean. If we don't get everything going, if they're not calling and not getting any mates, we're not getting any tadpoles, and then we are losing out on all these amazing toads in our desert environment. So yeah, that's me holding this big fat toad on one of my night hikes. That was so fun. I miss those guys. So back to us. I'm looking at my boyfriend here. So it's true. It's not just. It is true that if someone loves you, they will let you sleep and get your circadian rhythm in sync. It's very important that you get a good night's sleep so that you are able to function fully, and you can do things like talk on a microphone and hopefully have people laugh at you and learn something. So the bad news is that light pollution is increasing. It's just growing and growing. The good news is that it's something that's reversible and easily reversible. And some of it doesn't even cost any money at all. Some of it's just word of mouth. If everybody in here went and talked to 5 people about, hey, let's turn our lights out when we're not needing them. Let's use motion sensor lights in our backyard rather than having that thing just shining all the time. How about shielding that light in our, and you can be that person that everybody hates in your neighborhood too. Now, hopefully bring them over some, an adult beverage or maybe some sourdough bread, right? And just talk to them nicely and, explain it and talk to them. Have a conversation about what wildlife is experiencing when lights are too bright, on too long, in peak migration times. We can make a difference. Everybody in this room can do something tonight, and this week, this year, and wherever you go in the country, in the world, you can make a difference when it comes to cutting down on the amount of light pollution that you're creating in the universe. And then we have cooler stars too. You could start that today. I love this. This quote from Jane Goodall: "You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." So I ask you tonight, what difference do you want to make? Wildlife needs dark skies, and we need dark skies too. So what's good for the wildlife is also good for us. Coming back around to walking out in the dark and feeling that there were difficulties in life that were just too insurmountable, and then just walking in the dark for a little while. It's amazing what kind of almost magic that can happen when you walk in the dark. And I challenge everyone in this room to go outside this week. Just pick a night where you're going to go outside in the dark and walk in a dark area, shut off your flashlight, and see how that feels, and experience the calmness that comes with living in an area or finding an area in a park near you that has dark skies. We all need dark skies. Thank you. Making me blush. We have some time for questions and answers, and Jeff is going to tell us how that's going to work.
Yeah, so we've got the center microphone set up here. If you have a question, we've got, I'd say, about 15 minutes for Q&A, so if you'd like to ask Ranger Amy a question, please form a line here, and we'll get through as many as we can.
Please, someone start. Someone has to be the first one, please. Come on, someone. Mary, come on. I should have seeded this, Jeff.
Is there a reason that the red lights are safer for the turtles? That they don't mistake them for the moon?
I'm so glad that you asked that. So red light is a light that's not as, it's not detected as easily by many animals, and that they actually perceive that as dark and as darkness in some cases because of that light temperature. So in zoos and aquariums, they'll often use red lights in areas where you're looking at nocturnal animals, and so you can like press the button and the red light goes on. And if you have like a snake at home that you want to have a light on for heat, but you don't want light at night, it's often a red bulb. So it's the color spectrum that is important. Good question. Yes.
What raptors or other animals might hunt bats?
Ooh, great horned owls love to eat bats. And then, let's see, what else do we have around here? So great horned owls hunt bats. In the daytime, red-tailed hawks will hunt bats. And peregrine falcons will hunt bats. So it's probably one reason why bats don't come out during the day as much, but at night, mostly great horned owls in this area are ones that are going to be eating those bats.
So the falcons hunt at night?
They have sort of a crossover where they can be crepuscular, dawn and dusk. Yes.
You must have a bat problem. On light pollution, trying to come up with some basic rules.
Sure.
Running into some opposition. What kind of resources are out there so that I can be as persuasive as you?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. You know, I think when I worked for Game and Fish, people would call me up and they would say, I'm with an HOA, can you come and talk? And I'd be like, you can't afford me. No, I'm kidding. Where's Vicky?
I'm already working with Vicky.
Vicky? Vicky spoiled me. So what I would suggest is call and find a speaker, and then have that speaker come to your HOA meeting and give a passionate talk like this. So you going to the HOA and saying, we need to do something to cut down on light pollution. I like to say it's like a 3-beer conversation instead of just a coffee talk. Like sometimes some conversations need a little bit longer to sort of mellow and marinate a bit. And so you have to sort of get from A to B to C. You can't really go from A to C. So saying we need to cut down on light pollution and you need to do this now, without the B, which is sort of that passion part of it, and the action part of that is really important. So I would say if you can't find someone to speak, maybe write something in your local HOA newsletter, and just see if you can get people fired up about it. And then hopefully those people who are the squeaky wheels and the people who don't want to do it will kind of get pushed out. So, yeah, thanks for that question. Hi there.
Hi, so I live in Chicago, Illinois, and it's very light there, so I can't see the stars at night. How do I do the challenge that you asked us to do?
You're breaking my heart. What's your name?
My name is Vivian.
Hi, Vivian. I'd like to kind of shake your hand after this, if that's okay. I'll meet you. You know, all it takes is one person to get a bunch of people excited, and then a bunch of people getting some more people excited about it. Chicago. You know, I think Vivian, you're old enough to realize that you're not going to shut off all these lights. But if you can find out if there's a Lights Out Chicago chapter and go to those meetings, and yeah, your mom, you can have your mom drop you off, and then even if 10% of the residents of a neighborhood in Chicago, or even 1% of the people who live in Chicago shutting off their lights during that 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. time during migration it could save hundreds and thousands of birds' lives. And the one thing that you don't realize is right now, how old are you, Vivian? Vivian, right?
Yeah, I'm
9. So one thing you don't realize, and Mom, you can help her with this, is that if you go to the media and say, I'm 9 years old and I want to help birds, they will put you on camera. When you're young and cute, they put you on camera, and I'm hitting my microphone here, sorry. So get the media involved, and you can reach thousands of people watching a news clip, and they're gonna turn their head to watch you on TV, because usually the people talking on their TV sets are old, and you are young and cute, and they're gonna listen to you. And it's really great that you're asking these questions now. Don't ever feel like you don't have power. You actually have a secret power in your age and being so passionate. So thank you. Sorry?
There's a Lights Out Chicago.
There is a Lights Out Chicago. Okay, get on that, Mom. Hey. Okay.
My Vivian and HOA guy, wherever he is, they inspired me to get up.
Awesome.
So our HOA is having a tough time budget-wise, and we spend over $20,000 a year for our streetlights at night. And my husband just said we should just get rid of them. You know, there we go. But I'm wondering who your favorite YouTube videos would, like, what's the best resource if we wanted to share videos with the HOA and residents to influence them to, like, cancel the streetlights? What's your best resource?
Oh gosh. I wish I had a favorite YouTube video on that subject. I don't. I just have found a bunch of great ones from, and most of them they're Dark Sky International, yeah, just Google Dark Sky, and you will find some great videos that you could play and inspire people. But I would probably start with your city council, because we used to have no lighting at the fountain, and now there are lights all around the fountain, so it's totally lit up at night, and it's mitigated a little bit, but it's different. But someone had to meet and decide, you know, what kind of lights we're going to go around the fountain, and it could be a lot brighter and a lot worse than it is. So someone spoke up and said, okay, let's really think about this, and let's try to mitigate for wildlife. So I would start probably with your, if it's just the HOA, then just take it to the board and just make a plea there. Yeah, I would go right to the top.
Another question. We have a very, very big glass wall, like our back of our house is glass. Most of the birds die from our house during the day.
Yes. Okay.
So we don't want to put stickers or whatever.
I have a great solution for that. So during the day, birds see. They see. I'm trying to. What's the word for it? Someone's got the. No, there's they see UV light differently than we do. So there are stickers that you can get at any of those Wild Bird Unlimited stores. They sell them right at the front counter, and they are decals for your window. Is that my microphone? I'm not sure. They're window decals for your. Let me see if I can. They're decals for your windows that are actually translucent. But they're UV, and they're kind of, if you look closely, you can see them, but these decals, you put them on and they're leaves or birds, and they're very tasteful, and they're about this big, and you can't see them when you're looking at your window, and it doesn't look tacky. And so look for those decals, because when a bird sees that, they see it in 3D. So these decals that just don't look, that you don't see, you only see like a pretty image of like a little leaf, but they see it in sort of three-dimensional, and they see it and they're like, oh, I'm not gonna go in there. And also shutting your blinds can help somewhat, but those decals, make sure you put enough of them on so that that they see them clearly. You don't have to put birds or owls or anything. You just put these little tasteful leaves, and they can see that spectrum. So yeah, check that out. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.